What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown. It is another trade talk video. We had one on now the Raptors and the Nets, and then we said in that Raptors video that after Game 7, whichever team ends up losing is probably going to have a lot of trade rumors, just rumors about going forward, and the 76ers are in that boat. As you see, I'm actually finally back in the home studio, so I'm ready to talk about it, and this is kind of something we've been talking about ever since I would say midway through this season when rumors started coming out that Harden might go back to Houston, might end up leaving if the Sixers don't end up getting the aspirations they want to get. And then obviously this has just been amplified with the fact just kind of the state of the Sixers and just how they went out, being up 3-2, not necessarily blowing a 3-2 lead, but just demoralizing, still not reaching the conference finals. And we're going to see if the Blazers could work together a little trade to get Joel Embiid possibly on
Yeah,
Blazers roster.
yeah. Um, let's start off just with the state of the Sixers right now. So obviously vibes are really, really, really low. The way they lost, at least we left, we went outside at halftime, came back mid third, and it was over. Like
Yeah.
it was like they blitzed them. So that's definitely going to leave a sour taste in people's mouths. I think this is going to be the most interesting video we do with the teams because I feel like there's a lot of external factors that can affect a lot of people's decision making. For example, what if the Rockets get the number one pick? What if they get Wemby? Does Harden want to leave? Does he want to go run pick and roll back in Houston with Wemby? That leaves Embiid. That you got to Doc is apparently going to come back. Does Joel want Doc back?
Yeah.
Tobias is on the worst contract in the league. I mean, the Philly's in a weird spot right now. Before I jump in and we get on the trade machine, let's just start off by again, the trade machine doesn't we can't do draft capital, and in a trade like this, an absurd amount of draft capital would be used, correct?
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Like, obviously, do you think teams still look at the Rudy Gobert trade as like a market shifting trade to like set the market?
I honestly think like no, because I think people realize how absurd that was. Now Joel Embiid's obviously on another level than Gobert, so sure, I think you're probably fetching that many picks. I do think we'll see one trade or two go down that will reset the market back to realisticness because like you're
Mm-hmm.
obviously not going to see like the rumors with OG going for 4 first round picks or even McHale going for 4 first round picks. Joel's, like I said, on another level. So draft capital is going to be involved. I said this before we started recording, but I think it's going to be similar to the Anthony Davis. And this is, again, we're not here assuming Joel Embiid is going to get traded here. This is all under the,
This is a thought exercise.
this is, yeah, a thought exercise for if it does in fact get to this.
It's hypothetical.
An Anthony Davis type package where they had two so-called elite young players in that trade at the time, and Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, another really good young player, and then tons of draft capital. So I honestly think the Blazers have one of the better packages because they do have two very valuable young players and figuring out how this lottery goes come tomorrow night as we're recording this. We could have three really, really big
Mm-hmm.
trade pieces.
Yeah.
Before we get into the trade machine, I do want to say this video is brought to you by MyBookie. If you haven't seen us doing our best bets, we had a
On
little bit of
fire.
a rough day. I'm not going to lie, but hey, who knows?
Hey,
Who knows that a blowout's going to happen? Even with that rough day, we're still winning at about a 65% clip.
long
So
term.
obviously, don't know. Depends on how much money you're putting on each bet. You're in the green though. If you were tailing us, you can go to MyBookie, use code RIPCity for a free welcome bonus up to $1,000. So make sure to click that link in the top comment, pinned comment in the comment section,
Mm.
or just go to mybookie.website/ripcity to get in on the action. Still got a ton of basketball left,
Yeah.
even though only 4 teams are left. So
Yeah.
let's get to the trade machine now.
Yeah. So obviously, those two players you're talking about are going to be Anthony Simons and Shane Sharp. Okay. So let's just get into it here. So, and we get that Maxi is arguably, well, actually, I was talking to my friend. My roommate's actually a Sixers fan. Are you taking Maxi or Simons? Because they're kind of the same.
I think they're on the same level. I think you honestly might take Simons at this point because Maxi is going to be due for a contract, and I think by the time he's due for his contract, he will
He'll
be
make
asking
more.
for more money than what Simons
For
is
sure.
currently on. Because people look
So
at Simon's contract and be like, Simons is making $25 million a year. That's at this point 22. That might be a little much, but that's gonna be a really good looking contract in 2 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, talent wise, I think they're same level.
I mean, it's gonna have to be Simon Sharp, guaranteed.
Yeah.
You could argue if Embiid is coming back, you throw in Nurk and Nurk kind of like a stopgap center for them until they find their next big, or maybe they take a different route and they go, they don't want to have a MVP center. So, obviously
Well,
Nurk
they're
is
getting
going
an
to
MVP center in Nurk, so
yeah, of course. So, money there is not gonna add up yet.
probably need to bring back someone else, but
We have to bring back like a would you they would like PJ Tucker.
I mean, if you're going into a full rebuild, I don't know. It's if a Sixers fan is watching this, they're obviously looking at this and saying, "No way, we give up two starters here." But you would be going into a full rebuild. Let's just throw in Korkmaz for the sake of it, see if that money works. And it would. And then obviously you are throwing in
You're throwing in
pick, 5 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks. Like you're throwing the
Yeah.
farm. If the Blazers are making this trade, they are going all in on a deep playoff run, which let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. Joel Embiid is arguably one of the biggest playoff sinkers in the league right now. His numbers go down. He's now played with Ben Simmons when Ben Simmons was an all-star and very good. He's played with Jimmy Butler. He's played with James Harden. We could argue that Dame would be the best of those three at his current state.
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
were to play
It
with
could be
them.
Jimmy now, but Jimmy
Could
in
just be the
Philly was
aura.
not Jimmy now. Yeah.
Yeah, it could just be the aura of Philly is just can't get over the hump. I don't
Yeesh.
know. The Kings
Yeah, I
have
mean,
been to conference finals more recent than Philly, to put in perspective.
I mean, again, it's hard to like we get the money to work on the trade machine. Without picks, we can't do picks. So like I could throw in Nas
Yeah,
here too, and then like you're also giving, but you maybe instead, maybe Nurk doesn't get dealt. Maybe it's just Simon Sharp and then more capital because Shane Sharp at this point is virtually a first round pick. So I think
he's a top. He's on the same level as if we got the fourth overall pick. I
yeah,
think, or maybe even higher than that. Like he is a coveted young player.
yeah. So I think if Shane Sharp is included in the deal, I don't think we would give more than 4 firsts because Shane's basically the 5th first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also giving Simons.
I think an interesting thing you could look at is also this recent Kevin Durant deal. That was McHale, Cam Johnson, and I think it was like, I don't want to get this wrong, maybe 4 first, maybe a little.
So do you think? I mean, obviously Korkmaz is out of the rotation. So I mean, again, let's not get hung up on who the filler players are to make the money work.
Mm-hmm.
Is Simons, Nurk, Sharp? It doesn't have to be Nurk. Simons, Little, Sharp, and 4 firsts. Is that fair? You'd think it'd have to be.
I think it's fair, and if it's not fair, if Joel and this is all in a situation like the Sixers aren't just going to trade Joel Embiid. This is under the assumption he's asking out.
Right.
This is probably the best package you could possibly get. I can't think of other packages where you're getting a very proven young player. You're getting a not yet fully proven, but one of the highest potentials in the league. You're getting a ton of picks, and you're probably in this scenario you're probably trading your lottery pick as well. So, like that is a really good basis for a rebuild. And when you're rebuilding, especially the first big trade, you're not really looking for fit. If you'll make a decision on who
kind
you
of like the Nets,
Simons, Sharp, and whoever, and Maxey. Like I get you have 3 elite guards, but you can move on from one of those in just a year and get even more value. So
yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. A thing that I want to talk about a little bit is, do you think if, like you said, the 76ers are not going to trade Embiid, it's going to come from him asking out? Does that change the value maybe because Embiid has leverage, or do you still think the 76ers would hang on until they get what they want? Which obviously, like, they're not going to give him away for cheap, but like, is there any type of leverage or value that a team could, prey upon? And
yeah, I think there could be a little bit of leverage lost in the Sixers sense. I'm just trying to think back on recent stars to get traded. The one that I think of that got the least value is when Houston traded James Harden when he was like acting all overweight and not playing hard and saying I want out. And who did Houston get from that? They got their picks. They got the picks, but I think they got Victor Oladipo somehow in some form of a three-team trade. Um, Jared Allen, they didn't even bring on because he was a part of that trade somehow in a three-teamer. Um, I don't even know.
I don't remember that trade much because I just remember not being like, wow, this guy's not only is Harden here, but this guy's coming back. It didn't feel like the Rockets got, well, obviously they didn't get any
And I
stars back.
wonder how much it's weird. I don't know if Embiid's value is at a major high or a major low right now because obviously he just won MVP. That's kind of the peak of someone's career sometimes, but he also just sunk severely in the playoffs. And I don't think he had one MVP caliber game in this past series and then ends up putting up 15 and 8 in game seven.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. With Harden leaving, I think a lot of people will say like they'll try to more so. I think we'll see more mocks of Dame to Philly than Embiid to Portland. But
Well, I don't know who Philly would give. I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm not even going to entertain that, to be honest. But speaking of Dame, last thing let's touch on is the tweet.
mhm.
Um, I mean, maybe reading into things, but I have my opinions on him. So do you remember exactly what it was? If you wanna,
It was just a quote, which was a pretty tough quote. I think it was taken a little out of context for Embiid, but he basically said, "It can't just be me and James doing the like carrying the team. This is all
Harden didn't do anything.
paraphrased."
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of a weird thing to say after they both stunk it up in game seven. But I think he ends up saying more down the stretch. But that's obviously what the media does. They take the quote and they run with it. Dame saw the quote and retweets and just says, huh. Um, there's a lot of different ways you can say, huh. You can be like, huh, or huh.
Yeah.
You're like disgusted, like Embiid, I don't want to play this with this guy anymore because he seems like he's a
When
terrible leader. Or he's like, huh, this guy looks like he might want out. Maybe we could go see this man.
here's my theory. I think that Dame knows about the rumors. So
Absolutely.
I of Embiid to Portland, and there's the community of fans and people on social media, like they get momentum with theories like that, and it gets into players' heads. Like I believe that. Like obviously, players see things on social media. Unless you're LeBron, you're in zero dark 30 mode right now. But I think Dame tweeted at him to be relevant to keep it relevant. But I don't like I what am I trying to say? I don't think Dame actually was like, huh? Like, I don't think he was like,
I think
that's
he just
weird to
kind of wants
say.
to. He kind of wants to weave himself into like the
Exactly.
storyline and
Exactly.
get a little of a smoke to
Like,
Portland.
I think he wanted to tweet at Embiid. He wanted his tweet to be seen. He wanted things, but he didn't want it to be like tampering. So he was just like, huh, that's a stupid quote. But he's there. He's
For
there. Dame wants to
example,
let you know he's there.
when the initial Kevin Durant rumors came out, and he posts on his story, KT and him in a Blazer uniform.
He's
He's
there.
just kind of he's just starting some smoke because
Yeah.
that's what you got to do if you want to get a start at Portland.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's interesting. Tomorrow's the draft lottery. If we get the number one pick, all these videos might just not matter because Wimby is. Well, you were saying you wouldn't trade the number one for Embiid.
I don't believe so, which is still just
That's
crazy to say, but I
valid.
think like
Valid.
that could go down
Are you
as like
taking a bona fide MVP contender, or are you taking a guy who you're not 100% sure yet? That's the trade-off.
yeah, but
I think
it's one of those where it's like
it might be stupid, but I might if it meant that you didn't have to give up like the entire team.
okay, Wimby for Embiid straight up. You get the number one pick. Sure, you might do it because then you have all the ammo to go get even more players. It'd
Exactly.
be interesting, but I don't even think that's something we need to worry
But
about.
let's are we getting the number one pick?
But it would be interesting. Like obviously, I'm rooting for
Wow.
one, but what would be very interesting, and these videos would matter a lot more if we end up with the second or third pick. So
True.
tons of
Tomorrow
storylines tomorrow night.
tomorrow's a
Tons
big
during the
day.
live stream we'll be doing.
Facts.
So
That's all.
that's all we
That's all we
got.
got. That's all we wrote.
Sixers fans, don't hate on us too much in the comments. We're just doing what every other team does with Dame, so it's really not that big of a deal.
Facts.
And possibly we'll do one more of these later in the year once we get a little more information on our pick, once we get a little more information on some players that might be on the move. And so stay tuned for that.
Once Miami beats Boston in 6 and Tatum and Brown are fighting on the bench, then we'll We'll
We're
talk about
manifesting it.
Boston. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
so that'll be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.
Yep.